Let's just be clear about what's going on here, because here's what's happening at this hearing. We can't talk about anti-Semitism without also talking about something else. The message that's being sent today at this hearing today is anti-Semitism isn't enough. The attempts to kill Jews on campuses, that's not a conversation worthy of discussion. You've got to add something else to it. So if you want to kill Jews, oh, well, we can't talk about that unless we also talk about 15 other things. And now we have a witness sitting here who will not condemn the attempts on these campuses that are blatantly anti-Semitic tropes, Nazi tropes to try and kill Jews. What about?
Hello, Patriots. Welcome back to Signal 76, the channel where we don't just skim the surface. We dive deep into the currents they're trying to pull this nation under. This is your bastion for truth, your stronghold for liberty, and the front line in the unwavering defense of the foundational values that forged the United States of America into the greatest beacon of freedom the world has ever known. Today, we're peeling back the curtain on a truly sickening display, a betrayal of common sense and moral integrity that unfolded in the hallowed halls of a United States Senate hearing. We are going to meticulously dissect the appalling testimony of a so-called academic, a Ms. Berry, who, instead of shedding light on the darkness, seemed intent on providing cover for the shadows of anti-Semitism and anti-American radicalism festering within our university system. The very institutions meant to enlighten are now, in too many cases, incubators of ignorance and hate. Now, before we wade into the muck of this deliberate obfuscation and moral cowardice, I need every single one of you, true American patriots, to enlist in this information war. Hit that subscribe button for Signal 76. It's your declaration that you stand for truth. Pound that notification bell like you're sounding the alarm for freedom, because believe me, the alarm needs to be sounded loud and clear. Give this video a massive thumbs up if you're utterly fed up with the relentless assault of woke insanity and the erosion of our core principles. And most importantly, engage in the comment section below. Let your voice be heard. Share your insights as we expose this rot. You absolutely must watch this entire broadcast, Patriots, because the narrative being spun, the normalization of what was once unthinkable, is a direct and existential threat to our children's future, our nation's security, and our very way of life. We are the inheritors and defenders of sacred, traditional principles, and what is required now is not quiet acquiescence, but bold, decisive, and unifying language and action. All right, buckle up, because this is going to be a rough ride through the landscape of modern academic and political decay.
Chairman, Ms. Berry, let me just start with you. You said in response to a question from, I think it was Senator Graham, you praised the protests going on campuses. I just want to make sure I got this right, so you correct me now, as a national organic human rights movement. What did you mean by that?
The mass movement in support of Palestinian human rights is happening on college campuses across the country after students are learning more about the history of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict and the specific targeting of Palestinian human rights. Yes.
Oh, okay. I just want to be clear about what you're praising and not praising.
Well, praising.
Let's have a look here. So,
yeah.
This long live the Intifada.
Yeah.
Is this an example of the what did you say, national organic human rights movement that you mean? Is this a human rights movement?
I'm not sure that using the term Intifada, which literally just means to like shake off or get rid of, is effective, as most Americans don't actually associate it with a human rights issue. So I don't think that's effective. No, Senator?
Wait a minute. You don't think it's effective, but you would agree that this is calling for the destruction of the state of Israel. This is after the October.
No, Senator.
No, it's not. This isn't calling for the killing of Jews.
I don't know that person, and I don't know that sign. So
you don't know what this means?
I don't think.
You haven't seen this before? Did you see these protests on Rabbi, do you know what this means?
Yes, it's a call for the destruction of the state of Israel and probably the killing of Jews everywhere.
I do not agree with that, Senator.
You don't think that's hate speech right here?
Long live the Intifada can mean different. As I see the problem,
it can mean
Senator,
different things. Wait a minute. These are protests, violent protests on campuses that targeted Jewish students, attacked them personally, prevented them from going to camp, going to class, put them in fear of their safety after the October 7th attacks on the state of Israel that murdered more Jews than at any time since the Holocaust. And you're saying you think that this is an ambiguous message?
I'm saying that any student targeted on campus, a Jewish student.
Will you condemn this right here? Right here. Long live the Intifada. Will you condemn that?
Condemning Jewish students on a campus is being targeted, and the Office of Civil Rights should successfully be given funding.
Will you condemn this as hate speech?
I think that can be hate speech, but I don't think it's automatically hate speech. The problem is that there's nuance I'm trying to introduce to this conversation.
What's the nuance when these people
Because
are marching and
long live
calling for
Intifada,
Jews to be
because-
killed?
Sir, because long Intifada also means uprising for Palestinians. The way you get
Oh,
rid
so
of,
it's ambiguous, so it's hard to say. Well, my gosh. Okay, let's try another one. What about this?
Please, the audience will please.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's fine. We know what you think. Right, exactly. I mean, I think you've made it clear. Those who were cheering earlier when Senator Cruz was asking about the attempts to destroy and kill Jews. Let's just be clear about what's going on here, because here's what's happening at this hearing. We can't talk about anti-Semitism without also talking about something else. The message that's being sent today at this hearing today is anti-Semitism isn't enough. The attempts to kill Jews on campuses, that's not a conversation worthy of discussion. You've got to add something else to it. So if you want to kill Jews, oh, well, we can't talk about that unless we also talk about 15 other things. And now we have a witness sitting here who will not condemn the attempts on these campuses that are blatantly anti-Semitic tropes, Nazi tropes to try and kill Jews. What about this one? There's only one solution. Is that a national organic human rights movement?
no, sir, I would trust that's in reference to Holocaust, and that's
I would think
utterly
the final
reprehensible.
solution. Okay, what about
Utterly
this? What about this?
But
Glory to our martyrs.
again, I don't understand the point of messaging like that. I don't know what that means.
Would
All
you
I'm-
condemn this as anti-Semitic? This was projected here in Washington, D.C., on the campus, in front of Jewish students following the October 7th massacre.
I think that that is not appropriate speech at a time.
It was hate speech in the context, don't you think?
Sure, but the point is, I would prefer to focus on the issue of hate crime. That's the reason I'm saying that.
This is a hate crime. When you threaten to kill Jews and
That's a hate
destroy the
crime.
state of Israel,
No.
that's hate speech.
No, threatening
That's
to
a
kill,
hate crime.
Threatening to kill anyone, including Jews, is
Yeah, let's
a hate
not
crime that's
pretend that it's
prosecutable.
ambivalent or ambiguous or we're not sure. How about this one? Free Palestine from the river to the sea.
That's not hate speech, sir.
You don't think that this is a call for the destruction of the state of Israel?
Again, I can speak to what I think, which is amazing, because I'd love to talk about what I think, but I really think the focus of our hearing
You don't
should
think
be
that
the
after
growing
the
problem
October
of hate
7th
crime.
attacks, when this was projected in front of a group of Jewish students right here in the District of Columbia, you don't think that's an attempt to intimidate them and call for the destruction of the state of Israel?
Focusing on hate crime, I would say if
Just
that
yes or
were
no?
displayed on a synagogue, then it's a hate crime. If it was displayed on a Hillel, then it's a hate crime. If it's displayed elsewhere, I trust its speech.
Well, and then we wonder why our students are confused. Rabbi, let me just ask you, are you confused about this message?
I'm not confused, and I'll add that even if it was ambiguous and could mean different things to different people, Senator, can you imagine if there was a phrase that also meant kill all the black people? Would we be okay with projecting it because it might also mean something else to someone else?
No, I mean, well said, well said. I'm almost done, Mr. Chairman, but let me just ask, since the witness talked about a national human rights movement, let me just ask about a couple others. University of North Carolina chapter of Students for Justice in Palestine claimed, "It is our moral obligation to be in solidarity with the dispossessed, no matter the pathway to liberation they choose to take. This includes violence." Would you condemn that?
I'm sorry, was that for me?
Yes. It is our moral obligation to be in solidarity with the dispossessed, no matter the pathway to liberation they choose to take. This includes violence. You condemn that?
I certainly condemn violence.
Good. You condemn that statement?
I condemn violence. I have no interest in engaging in this back and forth about individual statements of students.
You know what? I do have an interest in it, and here's why. What I just read to you, the United States Senate unanimously condemned this rhetoric. And unless we take a stand now on this rhetoric, on this specific rhetoric out of the mouths of these students that you have called National Organic Human Rights Movement protesters, we are going to send the message that trying to kill Jews on campus, trying to prevent Jews from going to class on campus is just okay. It's just another viewpoint.
Senator,
It's
your
not
time
just
is
another viewpoint. And
Never
frankly, what
okay.
you're trying to do here
Senator,
today, I
your
think
time
is
has
wrong.
expired.
Deeply wrong, sir.
We have this witness, Ms. Berry, appearing before United States Senate Committee. The supposed purpose? To address the explosion of vile, anti-Semitic incidents that have plagued college campuses nationwide, particularly in the wake of the barbaric and unprovoked October 7th terrorist attacks on Israel. A day of slaughter that saw more Jewish lives stolen than on any single day since the darkest hours of the Holocaust. You would expect a witness in such a context to approach the subject with gravity, with a clear moral compass, with an unwavering commitment to protecting innocent students from hate. But Patriots, what we witnessed was a masterclass in evasion and intellectual dishonesty. Ms. Berry had the audacity to characterize campus demonstrations filled with harassment, threats, and support for terror groups as a national organic human rights movement. Human rights? For whom? Certainly not for Jewish students now afraid to walk their own campuses. These protests aren't about education. They're about indoctrination, an imported narrative dressed up as justice, designed to sow division and promote hate under the banner of social awareness. And then came the slogans. Long live the Intifada, they chant. For anyone with basic historical knowledge, Intifada isn't some fuzzy term. It means bloody terror campaigns, civilian deaths, suicide bombings. But Ms. Berry, she claimed it could have different meanings. This is where the intellectual gymnastics began. Words that clearly glorify violence were rebranded as ambiguous or misunderstood. And when senators asked for straightforward condemnations, she danced around every question. That wasn't academic objectivity. It was dangerous complicity. This wasn't a one-off. She repeated this strategy with every hateful slogan brought up. One solution. She avoided connecting it to its chilling parallel, Hitler's final solution. From the river to the sea, she wouldn't acknowledge it as a call for the eradication of Israel. When pressed to denounce the obvious, she demurred, suggesting we should focus only on prosecutable hate crimes, not the speech that leads up to them. But that's the radical left strategy. Weaponize ambiguity, pretend every call for destruction is open to interpretation, and protect hate speech under the guise of academic neutrality. Senators didn't buy it, and neither should we. They exposed the deeply troubling campus atmosphere where Jewish students are blocked from attending classes, where mob intimidation goes unchecked, and where hate is being normalized by silence and cowardice. These campuses are no longer centers of learning. They're ideological battlegrounds, often funded by taxpayers and tuition-paying parents, where fear trumps facts and the mob dictates morality. Let's talk about that phrase from the river to the sea. Patriots, let's not mince words. It's a genocidal chant. It calls for wiping Israel off the map and by extension endorses ethnic cleansing. Yet, Berry and others insist on calling this a legitimate political view. The sheer dishonesty is staggering. They're not advocating for a two-state solution. They're denying the right of an entire nation and its people to exist. It's not liberation, it's annihilation rebranded. All of this is happening in the shadow of the October 7th massacre, a day that should have unified the world in condemnation of barbarism. But instead, we're watching radicals, both on campuses and in faculty lounges, glorify the attackers and blame the victims. It's a moral inversion of historic proportions. And make no mistake, it is being enabled by a generation of educators who no longer teach critical thinking, but ideological conformity. Ms. Berry's attempt to pivot away from condemning speech to focus only on prosecuting action is a classic deflection. Yes, hate crimes must be prosecuted, but to ignore the rhetoric that fuels them is to ignore the match that lights the fire. Ideas matter. Words inspire. And silence, in the face of hate, is complicity. Even Senator Welch noted the unanimous Senate resolution condemning this hateful rhetoric. When the Senate, in its deeply divided state, can all agree that something is morally abhorrent, it's crossed the line. But resolutions aren't enough. We need real consequences. Universities must enforce codes of conduct, punish harassment, and stop allowing radicals to hijack institutions meant for learning. What we're witnessing is not just anti-Semitism. It's a total collapse of Western moral values on campuses. It is the culmination of decades of leftist indoctrination, teaching students to hate their own country, its allies, its history, and its founding principles. This isn't just bad policy. It's ideological warfare, and it's turning our schools into factories of resentment and division. This isn't an isolated event. It's a coordinated cultural assault on truth, freedom, and democracy. The radical left is attempting to rewire the minds of our youth, replacing truth with ideology, clarity with confusion, and pride in nation with shame. They're pushing the boundaries of what's acceptable until nothing remains sacred. Not faith, not freedom, not even life itself. We here at Signal 76 will never stay silent while this great nation is under siege. We will continue to expose the rot, the lies, and the cowardice wherever they appear. We stand firmly for liberty, justice, free speech, and the protection of our ally Israel against those who wish to see it, and us, destroyed. So what is your role in this fight? You are essential. Stay informed and speak up. Share this video. Break the media blackout. Confront the lies wherever you hear them. Demand that university leaders stop this madness. Hold elected officials accountable. Support organizations that are unafraid to take this fight to the front lines. But above all, do not let them silence you. Your voice is a weapon. Use it. This is not a battle we can afford to sit out. The stakes are simply too high. The legacy we leave for our children and grandchildren hangs in the balance. The future of American liberty, of American exceptionalism, depends on our courage, our conviction, and our willingness to act decisively now. Do not let the flame of freedom be extinguished by the winds of radicalism and hate. Thank you for joining us on Signal 76. Remember to subscribe, to like, to share this message far and wide. Let's ignite a firestorm of truth that will consume the lies. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay resolute, stay courageous, and stay fiercely patriotic. God bless you, and God bless America.